thought we managed to arrive at some kind of understanding.
We did.
Yeah, right. So explain what happened the next night.
Splitting up was Don's idea.
There were probably more monsters running around loose in the city. We had to find out how many there were, so it was only logical that we could scout more territory if we split up.
That was a team decision. So what I don't understand is why you had to wear the Night Watcher costume that night, Raph.
I was alone. And when alone, it felt better to be the Night Watcher. I was more comfortable that way.
Man, there are way more Night Watcher levels than I remember. Anyway, who's ready to talk about how the game fucks up the narrative more? Firstly, let's talk about how the game fucks up its own narrative. The entire point of the last level was to show Raphael that he had to work with his brothers to accomplish anything. That's what the whole last level was for. It did a bad job at portraying it, but still, that was its function. But he didn't actually learn anything from that. As you'll see eventually, he may have learned so little from that level that he might have gone into the negative. Might have unlearned some things. Anyway, now that that's out of the way and we've established that whoever wrote this is incompetent on a basic level regarding how narratives function, we should talk about how the game fucks up the movie's narrative even more. This game suggests that Raphael has an attachment to the Night Watcher persona and the Night Watcher suit. This isn't something that's shown in the film at all. The game heavily implies that Raphael feels more comfortable in the Night Watcher suit, but in the film it's implied that he'd feel more comfortable without the suit, and he's only wearing the suit because it's necessary. And the latter obviously makes more sense. Raphael doesn't switch fucking personas when he puts on the Night Watcher outfit. He's still the same guy. He's just free to act out his desires without being caught when he's wearing the outfit. Also in this game, Raphael is stupid enough to still use his size while in the outfit instead of switching weapons, because I guess in the game he didn't think it would be suspicious that someone was running around with size. You know, you don't realize exactly how smart some of the things the movie did are until you play the video game and you're like, well, that's stupid. Considering how well the film understood psychology and the character motivations, this game's just kind of insulting. Anyway, sadly, I don't really care for this Night Watcher level, except for this upcoming room right here, where we fight in some sort of refinery where there's lava and hot metal everywhere. I don't know where we are, I don't know anything about refineries, that's just my best guess. But it's a unique set piece, and it looks good, and it has very atmospheric lighting. So I like this place. This is like the only thing I actually remember about the level. Speaking of this level's name, Bite Me, is actually a reference to an event in the movie regarding Raphael and one of the 13 monsters. But that event doesn't occur in this game, so the level name just makes no sense at all. Am I nitpicking? Yes, but things have names for a reason, right? That's why they're there. If they didn't want the stages to have names, they wouldn't put names there. There's this one jump up here where we have to jump past these buckets, and if we miss the jump and fall in the lava, then we have to restart that entire combat section, which is a pain. It's an easy jump, but sometimes the stress gets to me. Something I wanted to point out, by the way, a couple levels ago, is that when we were jumping across the rooftops, there were lines of water damage, and the water damage was actively leading the player toward the next building to jump on. And that's incredibly creative visual design, and I was quite happy about that, but I forgot to mention it. I say a couple of levels ago, it may have been 3 at this point. But still, it was really creative, and I love when games do that, when they subtly hint where the player is supposed to go next in the level design. I mean, let's be honest, it's not like you were gonna get fucking lost in this game or anything. But still, they knew what they were doing, and I really liked it. You know what I just realized? I think this level has a burning building in it that you go through, and I don't even remember that. That's not the first time this has happened either. There was an earlier level with a burning building, and I didn't really comment on that either. I mean, I commented on it to say the turtle should probably, try to help people, because the building was burning. But I didn't really comment on it on a visual level or anything beyond that. But now that I think about it, that actually would have made for some really interesting dialogue if the 4 brothers were arguing whether they should help the people in the burning building, and they ultimately decided they couldn't because they would get caught. You know, they fight evil, that's what they do. They are still heroes, they go actively fight evil. But that's kinda all they can do, is stop people who would hurt other people. Everything they do to help others, you know, it kinda has to be behind the scenes. But anyway, back to the burning building. I don't know why I forgot the burning building in this level, and the one in the other level with the burning building. Because you figure that would be an interesting set piece, and that I would definitely remember that. But I don't, for some reason. And I don't think that's the game's fault, you know. I don't think I have any criticism about this right here. I mean, it looks nice, and it's over before it has a chance to get old. So, you know, it's good. This is a good thing. But I don't really remember it until it happens, or if I'm trying too hard to think of things to talk about during a Let's Play. It does remind me that in Splinter Cell Pandora tomorrow, there's some really, really terrible environmental design in the first level, where they have fires inside of a building. Just kind of static fires burning on the ground. You know, on the floor inside a building. And the building's not on fire or anything, and the fire doesn't seem to have come from somewhere. So the only real explanation is that the terrorists are pyromaniacs. But even then, it's questionable. And it's most noticeable in that first level, but they keep doing that throughout the game. They keep having these static fires, like someone threw a bunch of newspaper on the ground and lit it on fire, in really inappropriate places where there wouldn't be a fire. As someone who pays a lot of attention to environmental design and environments that are trying to look realistic, or at least semi-realistic, that really bothered me. And I have to assume that it was a fucking joke on the part of the environmental artist, because what else could it be? Like, it's either that, or after the environmental artist was done, one of the executives came in and said, the levels don't look interesting enough, and then they just copy and pasted the fire, just in random places. Now, keep in mind, I'm not ragging on Splinter Cell, I'm ragging on the fact that Splinter Cell has fire in inappropriate places. That's a very specific complaint, and it does not reflect the quality of the game as a whole. It's just very distracting. Man, this level has so much nothing in between the interesting set pieces. There's just so much random jumping across rooftops without any semblance of challenge. Such a boring level. Especially in comparison to Tower Power, you know, when we were in Max Winter's tower. That level kicked ass. I know I said that for, like, the whole video on that level. You know, it's been a while since we've talked about the 3D platforming in this game, actually, so let's do that. When I streamed this game for a friend a long time ago, the friend jokingly said, you gotta stretch that Prince of Persia engine. And I get it, you know, this is a 3D platformer made by Ubisoft, so the joke was probably appropriate, but then I looked it up, and this was actually made in the same engine as Prince of Persia. And I mean, thinking back on that, I should have expected it, you know, why wouldn't they use that engine? But this game feels way different from Prince of Persia in terms of platforming. Granted, Beyond Good and Evil feels way different from Prince of Persia, but if I had to choose between Prince of Persia and TMNT's platforming, I would definitely choose TMNT. That's not to say Prince of Persia's platforming is bad, but instead of being about doing flips and feeling awesome, Prince of Persia's platforming is more about pathfinding. I am referring to the PlayStation 2 Prince of Persia games. I have no idea what engine the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 Prince of Persia was made in. But anyway, yeah, this game feels way different from Prince of Persia. Anyway, we're now approaching Pete's Diner, which is where the namesake of this level came from. And it's also where the hardest combat section in the game resides. Not this combat section, but we'll get there shortly. In case you're wondering why there were foot ninja coming out of this diner, there is a reasonable in-universe explanation for why that could happen in the film, but not in the game, which is pretty humorous. The game would have you believe, from context, that the foot ninja are just in the diner for absolutely no fucking reason whatsoever. I mean, that seems about right with the rest of the game's story. The rest of the game's story is so sorely lacking in context that if you were to draw conclusions based on what's actually here, it would be an absolute mess. Not to say it's not a mess anyway, but why did you bother modeling this part of the movie? Why did you bother modeling Pete's Diner, which is an actual piece from the movie, and not include the scene that is included in Pete's Diner. The reason the diner's actually here. Because in the game, the level just ends here for no fucking reason at all. They don't even have the courtesy to play Black Betty. I mean, that's the least they could do. Is it just me, or are there way too many fucking enemies on the outside of the diner? Like, way too fucking many. Okay, finally, time for the hardest combat section in the game that we're going to cheese with the rage mechanic.
This diner's got the biggest roaches I ever saw. Oh, no you don't. Fight me, bozo. Playtime's over. Just not fast enough, you clowns. You're a joke.